I bought the property, I think for 950. So, and then I put in about 250
On the
in
outside?
structural repairs,
Oh, okay.
about 100,000 in interior cosmetic
Ooh.
updates. The intent was for me to sell this around I think I had calculated 1.7, 1.8 million. So, it would have been a decent,
Yeah.
but I basically broke even by the end of the day. And that was also because of the holding cost. So yes, I had calculated the right time frame for the repairs. But the market started to shift.
Welcome to the Share the Wealth Show, where minority professionals can learn to escape the racial wealth gap and catapult themselves into abundance. Your host, Nicole Pendergrass, grew her net worth from being negative to multiple six figures. Join her on her investigative mission to expose secret strategies of the wealthy so we can all have the tools needed to build the life and legacy we were created to possess. Now it's time for the show.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Share the Wealth Show. And this is the show where we discuss strategies on how to build, grow, and protect minority wealth. And we normally are highlighting very entrepreneurial individuals and sharing their journeys so that you can get inspiration on some of the next steps that you could possibly take. And everyone's journey will be a little bit different, but in any case, you can take tidbits from the stories that you hear and apply some of those to your life and maybe give you motivation to move forward and not be stagnant in your journey. And today, actually, I'm so excited to have Demetria Webster on the call with us. Now, you guys may not know her. She stays pretty much under the radar. She doesn't put herself out there much. I actually had to pull a little bit of teeth to get her on here, but I think before even I've known Demetria for a few years through a mutual a mastermind, not mastermind type of community that we're both a part of. And I knew what she was doing from before, so that story all in and of itself is enough for the podcast. But then she's doing something else. She did something else recently on top of that that really just also just put another layer of blowing my mind out there. And I'm like, all right, I need to be involved in that. So like, let me start. Of course, I haven't since we talked. I have not started looking for those yet, but I'm going to get on it. I'm going to get my life together and get my time. All right, this is enough of me rambling. Let me get started with Demetria. Hi,
Hey
Demetria.
girl,
Welcome to
how
the
you
show.
doing?
To keep talking and talking forever. Jeez Louise, I guess that's why I have a podcast, because I
That's
talk a lot.
right. The gift of gab. That's good. That's really
So
good.
welcome. Thank you for coming on.
I'm
I know
happy
it's
to
not
support
like,
you.
okay, good. Because I know I had
Absolutely.
to encourage you that your story was worth it and that, there would be no judgment or anything. Like, I just think that's crazy. We need to get you out there. People need to hear what you're doing.
Yes,
Okay.
that is something that I really need to work on. I love real estate. I have for a long time. And like you said, I've been, kind of playing under the radar, but making things happen. And I'm looking forward to talking about that with you.
Okay. So first, we're going to start with a little bit off kilter kind of question, but just want to know, like, what is one thing you wish you'd spent more time doing when you were younger?
Mm. I wish that I spent more time learning about like financial literacy. So my father is a banker, and I remember him even going into my classrooms in elementary school and talking about the importance of investing and savings accounts and whatnot. And I was so embarrassed. Like, I don't know, you know how kids are about their parents, they're just embarrassed, but he really had some valuable things to teach. And I think I picked up a few tips from him, and hopefully have taken the ball and carried it even further than he ever thought, he could. But yes, I would say the importance of managing our money, budgeting, and investing. I remember, and let me know if I'm rambling, but I remember when my dad, I was a senior in high school, And, I would ask him for money from ASB cards, send your pictures, prom, cheerleading outfits, all kinds of stuff. And he would say, Demetria, I need a budget. I need to know what you are planning to spend throughout your senior year so that we can plan for this, because I'm not going to just dole out the money when you need it. And I'm not going to do it, just on a whim. I want to know that you have planned this out and that we know when we're going to pay out money throughout your senior year. And I hated it. I was just like, why is he doing this to me? But I tell you, that has helped me in my life today. Okay. I probably should listen to him more, but that has really helped me in being disciplined about how I spend, how I save, and how I invest.
Wow. See, that's a great lesson. What I was even gonna say before you even shared that was, it's crazy. The financial literacy, we all know, is not something that is highly discussed, especially in our communities coming forward, because in our parents and our grandparents, they were just working to survive, and nobody had time or mindset or money, extra money, to think about investing and thriving. Like, it was just like, we got to get by. I need to work so we could get by. So I think the level of financial education across our community is already at a low level. And I'm thinking, if your father is a banker and you still didn't really learn, like, you got tidbits from him through just like experiences of things he talked about, like this example with budgeting and things like that. But otherwise, walking away from it is not like you got hard and fast, like, lessons that you really took away and applied, moving forward. So I'm like, if you have a banker as a dad and didn't really take away that much, then like the rest of us are just completely doomed. If
I,
you
I
didn't have the
That's
parental.
right. I mean, you're right. Like, I was exposed quite a bit, and I didn't listen to everything he said. I'll, admit that. And so, yeah, if others don't have that same influence in their households every day, then yes, that creates a disadvantage for
Yeah.
others.
And you know what? I think budgeting comes from different aspects. Like, your dad sounded like he was intentional with his budgeting. When it came to me and just being raised, I learned budget just because we didn't have the money for that. Like, we just was broke. Like, my mom wasn't spending on name brand. We wasn't going to the movies. We was going to the movies, like, but we had to go to the $2 movie down the road, but they only showed reviews, or they only showed movies that had been released for like months and months and months. Like, so we got to see the old movies later, because regular movies was too expensive. You couldn't see nothing when the movies was out, right? When it came out. So my whole budgeting experience was not really to budget and plan for expenses, but it was more about like just not spending a lot of money on little things, because that's not worth spending money on, right?
Oh, trust me, that was part of it too. Like, I mean, everything wasn't handed to me, and we didn't go to the movies. We didn't go out to dinner a lot when, I was growing up. We didn't do a lot. They do that now, but
Yeah,
they
yeah.
didn't do it a
No,
lot when we were growing. My mom and dad, who are still together,
oh,
but yeah, so I would do that too.
yeah, no, exactly. Like, my mom, of course, now my mom spends and travels and doesn't like spends money on things that like I got yelled at so bad about for spending money when I was younger. And so I be looking at her like, who are you? Like, what is this
That part.
lady? Like, she's like, oh, well, wasn't we broke then? And I'm like, well, still now I guess I'm scarred for life, because I don't want to spend $30 on a sweater anymore, because I got so yelled at that for when I was little. Like, that, you carry that emotional trauma forever. But also, what I want to say is, like, I'm trying to plant those kind of seeds into my daughters now. My daughter yesterday, I think she's hinting, but like, she honestly, I think, is pretty serious about it too. She keeps writing, it keeps coming up like over the past couple of months. She used to have a goldfish like 2 years ago. I don't know how she remembers that. She's only 6,
Oh,
right? And but she's writing these letters and notes to God, asking God what happened to her goldfish, and that she's like, God, did I overfeed, or I did, if I did I not feed my goldfish enough? Please tell me, right? And
oh,
you know, and what she wants to do is she wants to buy helium balloons and tie the notes on the helium balloons and send it up to God God heaven or God, like God world. That's what she calls it, God world.
Okay.
Like, God world is just called heaven. You can just call it heaven, right? Because she wants to send it up to God world. But she wanted to buy these balloons. And I'm like, if you want to buy balloons, you got to use the money from your piggy bank. And she's like, okay. So I'm like, these balloons, helium balloons, like big ones, they cost a lot of money. Like, the big size, like the number ones, they cost like $10 each. But even the small ones cost, $5, $10. And I'm like, if you have 3 notes and you need 3 balloons, that's like 15, 20, $30, depending on how much you guys say. You don't even got that much in your piggy bank. And she was like, yes, I do. I got a lot of money in my piggy bank. And I'm like, this girl, just because her piggy bank is stuffed with a bunch of dollars. But I'm like, those are all ones. You don't got enough money in there. So of course she brought it out. Looking to build wealth with real estate? Are you all tapped out on YouTube University and ready to get help tailored to your specific situation and goals? Have you always known that you were a little different from the crowd, that you never liked following the status quo, and that you're just tired of living in mediocrity? You want to build wealth on your own terms outside of Wall Street? Well, then maybe the Microfamily Mavericks mentorship program can help with that. It's a community where I handhold you through the process of buying your first small commercial multifamily building, because not everyone is ready for 100 units out the gate. Why multifamily? Because it gives your rental income a hedge against vacancy. Imagine what happens when your single family rental tenant leaves, right? And why commercial 5+ units? Because you have much more control over increasing the building's value in the commercial space, and then in turn, increasing your own net worth. Starting small is a stepping stone to so much more, because then you can tap that equity and buy another building and another and another, and you get the point. So increasing your cash flow and your ability to be job optional along the way. It's all a part of the journey. So if you think big, but you want to start small, and if you know multifamily real estate is the way for you to open the door to building a life of freedom, abundance, and legacy, but you just need someone to guide you step by step, and you want to be surrounded by other people on the same journey, doing the same thing, then just click the link in the show notes to find out a little bit more about the Microfamily Mavericks. And I look forward to potentially seeing you on the inside. So now back to the show. And she started counting it out. And she had like $75 in her piggy bank.
Okay.
And I was like, what? Like, this is just random money. And she's 6. I never had no $75 in a piggy bank when I was 6. Like, these kids these days, right? So anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. But basically, I tried to give her a lesson on budgeting and saying, okay, if these balloons cost $10 each, are you you're spending $30 out of your $75. That's almost half. Like, yes, you have it, but just because you have it doesn't mean that you should spend it, just because you can spend it and you have it, right? I'm like,
right.
Do you really want to spend half of your money on balloons that you're actually just going to release into the sky? Right. So I just try to, when kids are little and they really want to do something, they just want to do it and they don't care about the logic of it. But I try to talk about if that made sense to really do that, especially when you could just pray and God hears that, just like he would see this note kind of thing. So she knows. But anyway, I said, we're going to pick a budget and we're going to say, how about we spend $10 on balloons? And if balloons, whatever we go to the store, she's like, what's the budget? I'm like, that's the most that you're going to pay for something. Like that, just broke it down like that. Is when you want to get something, that's the most you're going to spend on it. So we're going to go to the store. We're going to take $10 with us. And whatever balloons we can get for $10, that's just what we can get. And maybe mommy will help you and add like $1 or $2 to it if you need a little bit more. So we did do that. And the small balloons was actually like $2.50. And the notes were too heavy for just one balloon. So we had to get 2 balloons per note, right? And that was to use some of my birthday balloons that was here already in the house. So we was resourcing. So we had 2 balloons on each note, but she didn't pay for 2 because it was for my birthday. And the other 2 were for, so she still paid her $10 for 4 balloons. So it was way cheaper. So I don't know. I just went on a whole rant. See, this is why I said I talk too much.
Here's where this comes into play. Like, okay, so she spent $10 from the $75 piggy bank, and now she has $65. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want something else. Okay. Deduct from that. And then when you realize, so I guess I didn't realize the value of money or the value of buying things, whatever it is,
Mhm.
until I had to spend my own money. And then it's just
Yes.
like, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. Slow
Yes.
down here. Let's think about this expense and whether it's really worth the amount that I'm going to pay for it. I think
Yes.
that's a valuable lesson for kids.
I think so. And I think a little like right now, she knows like, okay, now I have $65 back left in my piggy bank, right? And I'm like, yes, you do. Um, I still don't think she really values like because if she had spent $30 on the balloon, she wouldn't have cared like the other 35 because she
Okay.
knows mom and dad are gonna pay for stuff anyways. Like
Yeah.
I need to I still need to work on that little by little. But at least she got that one seed and then we'll do that before. Like they had another business idea before. They wanted to go clean up the park, like clean up trash for Earth Day. She made her own version of an Earth Day
Oh, good.
from like last year. And so I said, okay, well, you need gloves because you're not going to touch dirt with your hands and you need big trash bags and that kind of stuff. I say you're going to use money out of your piggy bank to go buy. So we went to the dollar store and we bought the stuff. So like I try to implement that. Like if they have a business or an idea, they have to invest in it in themselves, like for the opportunity or whatever. So I'm trying to like it's so hard with
Hey,
kids to
little
like know,
steps.
what to
Little
do, but those little
steps.
steps,
At
little
least you're
steps.
starting. I mean, and like you said, you have knowledge that, our previous generations may not have had that you can now share with your children. And so, that's the blessing.
Yeah, definitely. All right, now
Hmm.
I done spent this one little first question that got up all off kilter for I don't even know how long we've been talking about budgets, but I think it's still relevant to the show in general, and people
It is.
listening would, hopefully take some tippets from that. But in any case, let's talk about you because that's why we're here,
Okay.
right? So, what's the first thing you want to share about you? I don't like you're doing so many different things. You could go any direction with this, but what should people first and foremost know about Demetria?
I love real estate. I love all kinds of real estate. I have tried and sometimes not done so well, but learned in different types of approaches to investing. But I love it. As we all know, everyone needs a place to stay from a residential standpoint. There are some businesses that need to have a location where they're operating, from which they're operating. And so it's so important. It's a very valuable commodity, and if studied properly, can be very lucrative as well. And so I really just enjoy that. I have a corporate job. I won't talk about that because that's not what this is about. It funds my business. Okay, so there's that. But I really have a passion for real estate. So I've invested in and still do in single family homes, multi-family homes. I've gotten into some syndications with large apartment complexes and shopping centers. I've even, my goodness, this is crazy. During COVID, even acquired a quick service restaurant, fast food restaurant that was vacant and is now being leased out to a national company and tenant. And my latest is land. So I buy, sell, and keep land. And I love, oh, and I'm also a private money lender. So I also lend to investors who are looking to also invest. So yeah, I do a lot of things. I really enjoy it. I will say that I didn't have all of this laid out in some business plan. I just learn about a lot of opportunities and what we call asset classes, commercial real estate, residential real estate, land, et cetera, different types of investing, passive, active, and just studied it and, learned it and jumped in, made mistakes, but overall, I think I've been pretty successful in the decisions I've made and then the assets that I've invested in.
Well, I'm laughing to myself because inside, if y'all are normal, regular listeners of this show, if you're listening now and you've listened to my show before, you know, I said I talk a lot, but I also end up cutting episodes into multiple sections because they go so long. And I already know this is gonna be that one of them episodes. I'm sorry, guys. This is gonna be one of them episodes because she just put so much stuff out there, and I have so many questions. And I've known Demetria for years, so some of that stuff I knew we were going to talk about, and some I didn't know to talk about. So now I have a lot of questions. So I'm trying to make sure that as I ask them and you're answering them, I'm sure more questions will come up in your answers, but I want to stay in line in my thought process right now of like all the things I want to touch on, and try to make it not be 3 or 4 episodes. All right, let's go. All right. So where my first thing was, and I'll lay out the order of like how I kind of wanted to ask questions so we both kind of have the same page. So first I want to ask about some of those mistakes that you've made getting started, and like what you've tried that didn't really work out well, and what lessons you've learned from that. Then I want to go into, I guess, definitely when I met you, you were starting with land. So I would definitely want to go into your land business. I want to go into that that fast food restaurant that was vacant that you bought in COVID times. And the private money lending. I feel like I've heard you mention that before, but then I don't know why I just didn't remember that, because need some private money lending. I know, well, I don't need it yet, but I know it's coming up. All right. Anyway, all right. First thing, mistakes. What have you done that like just did not work out how you thought it was? Like, what was your initial when you decided, okay, I want to get involved in real estate. I see the power of real estate. Like, what was your thought process in wanting to get involved in real estate? Was there a why behind that? Because we know that why is normally what drives us. And I know your more recent why, I think if it's the same, but I'm sure that's not the same why as when you started. So the why when you started, and what you started with that did not work out, and like what lessons and stuff you got from that. I know that was a lot of questions in one. Are you enjoying this episode? Then stop what you're doing right now. Head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It really helps our show get pushed to more people who are looking for the information that we're sharing here. We have to share the wealth. If you listen to us on YouTube, make sure you like the episode that you're listening to right now and subscribe to our channel. Then share the channel with somebody else. There are people out there looking for the information you're listening to right now. So make sure you share it with someone who you know needs it. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, okay. So let's see. First, why real estate? I mean, I think I mentioned it. Like, I just love the fact that there are so many different ways you can invest. And I I love touring properties. I love seeing commercial districts in various cities. I don't know. And I didn't know what I didn't know. So, I could just say that I enjoyed this, but I didn't really know at the time, very way back when. I won't say how long. I'm not gonna date myself today. But uh I just wanted to own some things. So
You
I
didn't think
started
of it as
out,
risky? A lot of people think of real estate as risky and like they don't want to do that. Like they're scared to move
yes,
forward.
I fully understood that real estate is risky, but I was in it for the long term, for the long haul. And so, I started out buying and holding. Um, Never really got into the flipping part of it until a little bit later, but I just bought and held. And so I didn't really see it as a risk. I will tell you, so my first property was a townhouse in Seattle. That's where I'm from. And have that. And I moved to Connecticut for a job. And again, that's my dad. He said, Demetria, why don't you just buy a duplex, live in half, rent the other half? I was like, I don't want anybody living next to me. They don't want them to know that I own the place. But, I don't want to do that. They're going to call me about all these repairs and everything. I don't want to deal with that. And I found this duplex, and it was life changing. So the duplex, I bought it. It was brand new. It was newly built, so everything was new, which was great. And I rented half, lived in half, and the rent from the rental side paid for the mortgage and a little bit more. Not a whole lot, but a little bit more. And I thought, ooh, okay. So I took the money that I would have paid in the mortgage and saved it. And then I went and bought a 3-family property not too far from where I stayed. And that's when I really learned about tenants and managing and all that. It's just like,
So
oh
did
my
you
God.
do, so a quick side note, did you move into that 3-family to do an owner occupied down payment, or you did investor down payment and all of that?
Investor down payment. I
Okay.
stayed in the duplex. Yes, we
Okay.
stayed in the duplex. And yeah, so that's when I learned about tenants and just, the importance of managing and making sure that you're maintaining the property, because the longer you wait to fix something, the bigger the problem becomes and the more costly it becomes.
Yes.
So those were some of the lessons that I learned. I wasn't like a slumlord, or people call it that. It wasn't that. I wasn't trying to, create a really unsafe, living condition for my tenants. It was just that I didn't think that the repairs needed to be made as quickly as they really did. And that's when I learned, okay, now it's costing me more because it's just creating even more damage. The roof was one example of that. So yeah, that was my first true like investor uh third party property that I didn't live in. Okay. And meanwhile, my other properties are gaining equity over time. So I'm like, okay, so now I can take some HELOCs out and now start to invest in other properties.
What's a HELOC?
So that's what I started doing. And then I bought a condo.
Oh, wait, I just want you to say tell people what a HELOC is first,
Oh, it's a
in
home
case someone
equity
doesn't know.
line of credit. So where you have a certain amount of equity that the bank will, so based on appreciation, you can borrow a certain amount of that equity to maintain the property that you currently own, that the loan or line of credit is against, or for other reasons. So I used it to invest in another property, and that's when I bought a condo. So now I'm starting to build this little mini portfolio, but I'm still managing it on my own. And that's when I, just the whole idea of getting the phone calls when the toilet floods or the roof needs to be repaired and all these different things. I just thought, okay, I'm working full time. I don't have time for this. So I had to hire a property management company to be the front line for me. And as we learn, all property management companies are not made equally. And so I learned the quality of property management that I expected and how to utilize that service to ensure that I was minimizing the maintenance costs by addressing them when they needed to be repairs when they needed to be addressed. So that was a huge lesson for me. So that investing was happening within basically the same metropolitan area in Connecticut.
Yeah, except for the one
And
in Seattle. You still owned the townhouse in Seattle. Okay.
yeah. So then I what did I do after that? Started going international, not internationally, nationally, outside of the Connecticut area, and got into a couple of education companies, and learned about out of state investing. I was already kind of doing it from Seattle, but
Yeah.
learned about the importance of, like, again, property management and finding the right markets to get into and finding stable markets. They may not be high end, but they were stable to ensure that the vacancy for the units were low. So then I started doing that. And then I thought, ooh,
What's the
now
next
this is
market you
great.
went into?
Memphis,
Ah,
Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis. Now that's okay, because from what All right, and we don't want to age anything, but like
It's okay. Go
Memphis, to
ahead.
me, when I hear Memphis, I'm thinking like I don't always hear the best things about Memphis as far as like stable. Like I hear about like just the danger and crime and stuff like that. So what made you pick Memphis as the next? Was it just because properties were somewhere where you could afford to buy?
That was part of it. The properties were, in the 120,000 range, fully rehabbed. And there was a demand for rental properties. But the economy was also very stable. So, like FedEx is headquartered there. And I learned this during COVID that, none of my tenants during COVID, the shutdown, shelter in place, all these eviction moratoriums, all this crazy stuff that was happening, never affected my Memphis properties. The
Mm,
tenants were still paying, residents, I like to say residents versus tenants, but
yeah.
they were still paying rent because the economy was still alive and well there. And so, because logistics, everything's now it's really thriving because we're relying more on Amazon and other companies rather than going to the store than ever. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so I did very well. Did I know this was going to happen when I bought the property? No, but it turned out to be a great area to invest in, and I still think it is today.
Okay. Cool. Oh my gosh. So all right. At this point, how many units now do you have? We know you have Seattle, you have the duplex, that's 3, you have another triplex, that's 6, you have another single family in
Couple single
Connecticut,
families, a few
a couple
actually.
single families.
It's hard for me to count these things, Nicole, because I get real, so
So
you know how I
so
get.
at least 10 just between Seattle and Connecticut. It's probably around at least 10. And then you went into Memphis, so you bought a couple more single families there. Okay. Out of this time, like I know you were touching on just like some hardships and normal like learning curves of being a landlord and learning how to do it all, right? Was there anything like really big that happened in particular that was like a make or break moment or like one of the biggest like headaches that you went through? Like because there's that this is a years and years time frame, and I know just being a landlord and hearing your stories, I know that you glazed over a lot
Oh,
of like the
evictions.
pain that happens.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to housing court more than I would like to admit, like to the point where I can tell my attorney, sit down, I got this. Okay, because I've been here
Oh,
before, like kind of thing.
oh,
Crazy.
that
I'm all
sucks.
crazy.
Oh,
But the rental, so that's par for the course, right? Evictions, maintenance for rentals, that's something to be expected. It's really challenging to get through your first couple times. It was emotional for me having to move people out of properties because they weren't paying rent. That's hard. That is really hard
yeah,
to do.
yeah,
But it's a business, and we expect people to pay for where they're living or seek assistance, whatever it may be.
yeah.
Um, but so there's that. The part that really got challenging for me was when I was flipping. So I did some flips in Connecticut, and then I'm fast forwarding quite a bit, but I had a property in the Seattle area, and it was I'll say almost $1 million property. Okay. And I bought it. Um, it was on a very steep slope, but this was not irregular for this area. Mercer Island, I'll say what it is because some of the people out there might know about this story.
Yeah.
But I bought it, and I ran my numbers. The market's great, the price was great. I had to figure out how much the repairs were going to be. There was a significant amount of repairs that had to be done. It was a red tagged house. So it was inhabitable at the time. It was gated off, everything. Um, that was the most challenging property I think I've ever done. I won't ever forget it. I spent more money stabilizing the house because it was on a steep slope than I
Yeah.
did in making improvements inside. That was not part of the plan. Literally had to, okay, so had to rebuild essentially a bridge from the street to the front door. That is just how steep this house was. I had to get geotechs involved. I had to get structural engineers involved. So, you see the dollar signs, right? Okay. To
Wait a
get
minute. So
all,
this was your first flip was in
uh,
Seattle, across the country.
well, yes, but I'm from Seattle, so
Yeah, I
I
know, but
was
it's still a flip.
there, but it was a flip. I was there because I could go back and forth, right? But I wasn't there every day, which is another thing that I think was an issue there. Um, but yeah, this house, I mean, I had to stabilize it. I had to put piles down, is it called piles? Down into the ground to make sure it was stabilized. This bridge, I mean, I'm like, what? And then to even excavate, to clear the land, to even build the bridge cost me money. It was on a slope. They charged me extra money to do that. Now, mind you, I haven't replaced a toilet. I haven't replaced a tub. I haven't replaced a shower. I've laid a single tile of tile, square tile. And I'm dealing with this, and I'm dealing with the city, and I'm going to the city, and I'm trying to, find out what I need to do. And they're telling me I gotta find a structural engineer. I mean, this is crazy. I'm reliving this right now. I'm not as emotional as I was back then, but talk about sleepless nights.
Wow, that's
Oh,
really learning by fire. That's jumping into the deep end. Like, well, you probably learned so much now, like that it's like those hard situations like that, they suck. But when you're going through it, but then on the
girl.
back end of that, once you come out of it, especially if you dealt with it and are successful with it, and a successful means like you got through it and didn't lose everything. You know what I mean? Like even if you come out even, to me that's successful because you got through all that craziness. But
Yes.
like you need like that, you take those skills for with you forever. Like
Let me
now,
tell you.
not that you're going to do it again, but like now you would know, you might be a little less intimidated the next time.
And that's the thing, right? Because now I know the questions to ask before I acquire the property.
Yes.
Because, oh, and it'll cost this. We think it'll cost this to fix that. No big deal. Well, it is. It's a big deal. And, I didn't know all the questions I needed to ask before I signed the paperwork and said, okay, I'm taking this on. So I learned about that. I learned a lot about really making sure that you're doing your due diligence.
Mm.
And even I would say partner with someone who has a lot of experience. If someone's listening to this and they want to flip and they need to know what to do, partner with someone who has experience. Now they're going to they want you to have some skin in the game as well. So you're going to need to, front either time or money, whatever that is. And yeah, do it with someone who knows what they're doing,
I love
because
that.
you can lose. This is the risk part. You can lose a lot of money. One, by underestimating the costs to flip, and two, underestimating your holding costs. So throughout this entire repair process, I'm still paying a loan every month. And I'm calculating every day that this part of this is not finished and sold. I'm counting the days and the number and the amounts that I'm basically building up in costs before selling.
All right. So I'm gonna ask a little bit of numbers on this particular deal because it's very interesting. But then I want to get over to the land and how you got into
Mm,
sourcing land and
mhm.
selling, flipping, and holding land. But anyway, with this property, you said how much you were spending on the outside and just stabilization of the property was much more than you spent on interior repairs. Do you remember how much you spent on the outside stabilization, and then how much you spent overall on material repairs? What was the purchase price, the sales price? Like, did you end up making any profit on it? Like all of those kind of details.
Yeah, so I bought the property, I think, for $950. So, and then I put in about 250
On the
in
outside?
structural repairs,
Oh, okay.
about 100,000 in interior cosmetic
Ooh.
updates. The intent was for me to sell this around I think I had calculated 1.7, 1.8 million. So, it would have been a decent,
Yeah.
but I basically broke even by the end of the day. And that was also because of the holding costs. So yes, I had calculated the right time frame for the repairs. But the market started to shift.
Mm,
And this was in 2000, when was this? 2019, I think it was,
okay.
2018, 2019. So the market started to shift, and it took me longer to sell it than I had planned.
Mm,
And I'll just shout out a few names if I could. Andrea Chittard, that's my girl. Liz Brown. These are agents who were able to help me market this property. One thing I didn't and sell it. One thing I didn't mention was that, and I didn't know, was that this area, Mercer Island, was a very tight-knit community. And there was a history on the house that I didn't know about when I acquired it.
mm.
And so these agents, Andrea and Liz, had to help me dispel the water cooler talk around this house.
What was the, now we gotta know what that
Well,
was.
I don't want to go into all the business, but there was
Oh,
the owner had some issues, and I guess everybody knew about that. And oh my gosh, it was
okay.
crazy.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, so I had to do that. And the way we did it was to just be completely open about what was repaired, which we would do anyway, what was repaired, how much it cost to repair it, so that they can see, and then also showing that there's structural engineers, there were geotechs who were part of this process. And so it has been approved. It's been approved by experts that it is now stable and structurally sound. And so that helped people, get into it. So I ended up selling it for, I think it was 1.4, I think something like that.
Okay.
Broke even.
Okay.
Broke even.
Well, at least you live to tell another day. You're still investing.
And that's and so that's where the passion for real estate comes into play, because that project alone should have just broken me. Like, I'm not touching another property.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but I kept going, and I'm still going, even though I've had that setback. And you'll hear this from other investors as well. I mean, anyone who tells you that their journey has been peaches and cream and roses may not be telling the full story. There are ups and downs, but usually the ups are greater than the downs.
Yeah, and see, I love that. Usually the ups are greater than the downs. And that's why you can keep moving forward and get over. Of course, there's going to be risk, but you want to mitigate the risk as best as possible. And there's going to be times when you don't mitigate the risk as best as possible, like this situation, but you learn during the process and you develop that tough skin to be able to keep moving forward. But there's nothing should completely break you to the point where you can't keep moving forward and doing something or get back on your feet. But it's all on your personality as well. And you are a strong woman. So there's that.
There were many nights I didn't sleep. There were many nights that I went to bed crying, like trying to figure out how to make it work. I'm just going to keep it completely real.
Oh yeah.
So yes, will I ever buy a house on a slope again? No way.
No, no, no.
Well, and so now I know what questions to ask. And that was the really valuable lesson for me there.
Good. All right. Well, now we'll pivot over to Lynn. How did you start? If you're doing all this, you got all your singles, multis, like your portfolio. You started you did a few flips, learned a lot of lessons there. What attracted you to want to buy land, especially when land does not initially cash flow?
Okay, guys, don't kill me, but I'm going to have to cut this episode short. This is too juicy, and we need to do this in a part 2. So stay tuned for the next episode that airs, and you can hear the rest of our conversation.
Did you love this episode of Share the Wealth Show? Be sure to connect with Nicole by following her on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. If you picked up any of the gems that were dropped by today's guest, make sure you not only put them in your bag, but if you know of someone who would benefit from this information, don't keep it to yourself. Share the wealth and make sure to leave us a rating and review. We'll see you for next week's episode. Subscribe so you'll be notified.